Hi everyone. It has been a long time since I've posted a technical video. Today, what we are going to talk about is data operation in Power Automate. We're tasked with, at a particular client, with reading a PDF document and extracting certain information out of the document and putting it into a SharePoint list and performing certain insights into the data which was extracted. So initially what we did was we're looping through each and every page, each and every line, and then looking at it and extracting the data. But it becomes a performance issue when you're looping through the pages first and then through the lines. So we found out some of the actions provided under data operation to be extremely useful in filtering the data and coming up with only the data that which we need. And we are going to look at some of these data operation actions on how to use it and how it would benefit you guys. So we are going to talk about the compose action. And if you're a regular Power Automate user or a Power Automate developer, you must be familiar with what a compose action is. It is similar to a variable, but a variable can be set later, and it has a particular data type. Compose does not belong to a data type, or there's no data type associated with it, so it is flexible. But the downfall is that once you have set it, you cannot update this compose action. We are also going to look at Parse JSON. So if you know that you're getting a JSON data back and you want to look at each and every individual variable or the data, you can use a parse action to extract the JSON information. And then we are going to look at select, which it will allow you to select only certain information from JSON and return it back in an array. And then eventually, once we get what all information we need, we can join it together into one particular variable, so we can look at what all information was gathered from the entire array. And then we are also going to look at how we can filter through the array so we can reach specific information. Okay, so let's jump on to our demo real quick. So here is a PDF document, which is a Microsoft Power Platform App Maker. This is the certification exam, and it has all this text in it. Okay, so in Power Automate, and I have dropped it into this particular test documents folder, so I can process this particular file. So what you're looking over here is you're looking at a workflow, which when a file is created in a folder, it is going to start processing that file. It's on the test documents. So Power Automate also provides you some AI builder actions. This particular video is not about AI builder, so I'm going to skip most of the information on the AI part. I'm going to create another video about AI builder in Power Automate, but right now I'm just going to focus on data operations piece. So simple workflow. Document is dropped over here, and this text, this particular recognized text in an image is going to extract all this text from this particular document. So we are just going to run this particular workflow and see how it looks like. So I'm just going to click on submit over here. And once this workflow is completed, you're going to see, if you expand this, it's a big document. It has around maybe 5 to 6 pages or 8 pages. So it's going to show you like click to download, and you can see what the data has been returned. And it's a JSON data what has been returned back, and it's really hard to read from here, right? But the main thing which I wanted to show you is, if you see over here, the one which I have highlighted, it has page 1, page 2, and it is an array over here. Okay, so all the pages are being returned back as an array. So in order to loop through that, what you could do is I will just go ahead and add apply to each, and I'm going to say return me back, sorry, not over here. I'm just going to select results. And now the first one which I'm going to use action is compose. Okay, so I select compose, and this is where, if you remember, I talked about compose can have any type of data. So over here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say current item. So what it is going to do is, now it is going to run through 1 through 8 pages, and it is going to return each page separately. So let's see what data we get right now. So let me resubmit this, and if you see, once this is successful, now you'll see that it has gone through the 8 pages. It shows show 1 of 8. And if you expand compose, now it's going to show you that particular information. Okay, if you go to next, it's going to show you page 2, next, page 3, and so forth. So, and over here I can just type in page 1 and it will just go directly to page 1. Now let me copy this out of here and open a notepad so I can show you how it looks like. So this is all the data which has been the JSON data which was picked up from that document. If you see over here, it shows pages 1, and then the lines are the one which is another array. And if you see over here, this is the first line, XMPL 100, Microsoft Power Platform App Maker, skills measured, and so forth. And if you see over here, it also shows you, if you look at the bounding box, it shows you the left, top, width, and height for this particular text. So it tells you that where the text starts is 0.133 and so forth, while this one is 0.39. So if you go back to the document itself, if you see over here, the skills measured was almost on the center. So and this is extremely useful because we ran into an issue where we are extracting data from a legal document, and some of the fields, fields for the unstructured data, started from the center location. So we are able to figure out what the center value is and then get only the text where the left value is greater than 0.5 or something, like 0.05 kind of stuff. And that's when it gave us all the values which we are only interested in. And we'll talk about how we can filter it out and so forth. Okay, so going back to the notepad, so what we are particularly interested in is the left and the actual text. Okay, so when we see this JSON data, and if you go back to your workflow, and if you just click on, say, let's create another compose, and now say I just want to look at maybe the text information. Okay, so if we go over here, there is text, but this is within the PDF document. Okay, but it doesn't show us anything what was extracted in this compose. Okay, so before we do that, what we can do is we can go to create another add action and type in, say, parse JSON. So this is another action under data operation, which we can use to extract the field names and the actual data. So first we have to define in Parse JSON which data am I going to perform this operations on. So we are going to look at this compose thing which we got over here, right? So I'm just going to select this one, the outputs from this thing, and then we have to build a schema. But there is an easier way to build the schema. So if I go back to my notepad and copy this entire JSON, and I click on generate from sample, and I can paste that entire JSON here, and I click on done, and it is going to generate the schema for you. So pretty easy. You don't have to know the syntax on how to create the schema and so forth. Now it has created this schema for you. So now if you look at over here and you click on this, now you see that we have the individual items and all that stuff. But now say I click on text, it is going to create a loop, okay? Because if you remember in our original one, if we go back to the notepad, the text and all this data is within the lines array, okay? So what it does is it creates this loop and puts in the lines, and then you can reference the text, okay? And now it becomes cumbersome because now first you're going to loop through the results, like each and every page, and then you loop through each and every line. And that works sometimes. So if you just click on save and you just click on resubmit, and now first you're going to loop through each and every page, and then you're going to loop through each and every line. So if you realize now it's going to slow, the performance is going to be slow now because now you have multiple items you're going through, right? So it will take a few minutes. So now this entire workflow has ran, and if you see over here, the first time it ran around, it was like 8 seconds. And when we did this, like each and every page and each and every line, now it took around 1 minute and 43 seconds. So if you see that the performance is really bad in this scenario, because now it's going through, if you look over here, the first page, it had 33 lines. It is now pulling up all this data. If you go to the next one, it's like dot, 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 and so forth. Okay. So this is not what we really wanted to, like, it's like 1 times 33, whatever times it's going to keep on looping through that, right? So we need to now figure out an easier way to do this selection and bring back the appropriate data. So what we are going to do now is I'm just going to go ahead and delete this particular stuff. And what I'm going to do is, we have already got this Parse JSON, so which has the lines and all that stuff within that page, right? So what we'll do is now is I'm going to go ahead and create another action called select. So I'm going to use this action, and what this allows me to do is it allows me to go through that particular array. So if you notice in our notepad, you have this lines array which has the text and so forth, right? So it will allow me to go through each and every item of line and then extract the text column. So what I'm going to do over here is, if I use, say, Parse JSON body, it's basically coming from here, but that is actually bringing back as an object. If you see over here, it's an object. What we really want to do is we want to get this particular array, which is the lines thing. So what we do is, in this scenario, instead of using this body, what we'll do is we'll create an expression. So if you hover over this thing, it tells you what that expression is going to be. So it is body parenthesis parse underscore JSON. If you notice over here, the name over here is parse space JSON. What we'll do over here now is we'll do body and then put single quotes and parse, and for spaces we always use underscore and put in JSON. So now what this has done is this has got us the object itself. Okay, so but what we want is the actual lines. Okay, so what we are going to do is, let me just go ahead and delete that, and I'm going to say body here parenthesis parse JSON, and then question mark if some data was returned back. Then what I'm going to do is get the item called lines. Okay, so now what we have done is, and sometimes it does this, so I just go back and forth over here, and then when I click on update, it will do it. So if you hover over it, now it's looking at the lines object from here, which is an array. The next step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say text, and I'm going to select text out of there. Sorry, not like that. I'm going to say item question mark and text. So what item does is it's actually looping through each and every item in this particular stuff and capturing the text out of there. So now I click on OK and I click on save. And once it is saved, we are just going to go ahead and resubmit this. Click OK. And now if you see over it here, it ran real quick. So if you notice, the first one we talked about, it was around 1 minute and 45 or 50 seconds. This one just ran in 2 seconds. So if you now click on this, and now if you see, this one was the input, the entire array, but now we just pulled up the text out of it, and it is showing you all the text which was pulled out of there. So it's really easy to use the select operation to pull just a particular data out of there. So now the next step, what we are going to do is, we have all of this data over here, the text, but I also need to get, say, the left column from here. Now if you notice, text is right under this one, and then you have a bounding box object, and left is part of that bounding box object. So what we are going to do is, now I'm going to just call this as left, and then over here I'll just copy this particular expression and paste it over here. And instead of text, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in bounding box, and then out of the bounding box I want to get the left column. Okay, so once I do that, I click on OK, and so if you hover over it, now we are getting the left and the items. So now if I click on save, and I resubmit this and click on OK. And if you see, it ran real quick, and now if you go back over here, it's getting me the left column. So this is pretty good when we have when we want to return object array. But what if we just want to return the text without actually calling it the text name and so forth? So There is another trick. What you could do is you can, let's go ahead and use another select action, and we are going to again go against the same thing. So I'm just going to copy this one over here, paste it into this select, and click on OK. So now we have the lines. Okay, so it allows you to switch map to text mode. So what it does is right now you're defining the key and then you're defining the value and so forth. If I switch to this thing as a map, now what I can do is I'm just going to say item question and put in as text. Okay, click OK. I wish Microsoft can fix that issue. So click on OK. Now if you hover over that, it shows you that it's going to return back the text. So now let's run this and see what the results are. So click on resubmit, click OK. And now you expand this select to, and now if you see, you just got an array of string. Okay, so you got everything on that page as a string. So what if you want to like combine this entire array into one string and return it back? So what you could do is you could put, there are two ways of doing this one. So you can use the join action. So I'll show you that one first. And it is going to come from the select to output, and then I'm going to just join it with a semicolon and a space. So let's click on save and click on resubmit, and let's see what we get over here. So now if you open this one, this is what we got as an array. And now if you see over here, this is the entire string which was generated from this. And if you see, this one was the first line, it put a semicolon space, and then it has the second line, skills measure, semicolon, and so forth. It's that easy to join it. And the second alternative way is, I'll just go ahead and let me just click over here and create a compose action again, and I'll show you the other way you can join this entire array. So what you could do is you could use an expression called join parenthesis, click back over here, go back over here, select the output from the select to, and put a semicolon, or just for clarity purposes, let's put a pipe and end character. So this one is going to be separated by pipe character. This one is separated by semicolon. So you can see the difference between these two. So I click on save and click on resubmit, click OK. And if you see, it's still pretty fast in doing all of this stuff. So let's click on compose to where we use the join function. And now if you see over here, the lines are separated by a pipe character, and the other one is still separated by semicolon. So that's pretty cool, right? But now the main issue is if we go back to, say, this one, the initial one, which was select to, where not this one, select, where we have this text and left and all of that stuff, right? But if you wanted to get an item from this array using the index of that particular item, it's really hard to figure out what that index is. So what we are going to do is, with this object, we are going to add an index value, which is just a number. So what we are going to do is underneath this, I'm going to create another select. And over here, I'm going to use an expression called range parenthesis. And over here, I'm going to say 0, comma, length of whatever output we get from this select, okay? Sometimes it does that. So 0, comma, length, and parenthesis. So now let's just hover over this, and for some reason it did not take this thing. Let me go back over here and put that. Let's hover over that, and now we have 0 to length of that. So now the next one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say index, and I'm going to say over here item. If you remember, initially I had mentioned when you put it this way, it is going to take the item from here. So in this scenario, we are going from 0 to the length of the entire array. So now what it will do is it will pick up the number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and put it in this particular stuff. The next thing, we are just going to use the text. But over here, what we are going to do now is we are going to do a body parenthesis, because remember this one is returning back an array. So what we are going to do is the body of that one, and now we are going to type in items. So now that's the index on this one. So in this scenario, this is index 0, this is index 1, and so forth. So, and then what the property which we want to bring back, which is text, and click OK. And now if you hover over here, it is going to show you that it's going to pull the text data. And also we are going to pull in the left. So click on this, and I'll just copy this one, paste it over here. Oops, not over here. Expression, paste it over here, click OK. And now if you see over here, it's still showing text. Let me change this to left. And let's hover over here. We have left, we have text, and the actual item. So let's run this and see what we have got now. So I'll just rename this to insert index so I know what the action is. Now let's run this and let's see what we got over here. And let's go and see this one. So if you see over here, the input was basically the range, so it goes from 0 to 32, and now it has added the index over here, 1, skills measure, 2, and so forth. And if you go at the very bottom, it's the last line of it. Okay, so that's how it is easy to just add an index into your array. So the last part which we are going to look at now is how do we filter this. So let's say in this scenario, I want to filter out maybe just the skills measured, which I know say the index is 1. Okay, so let me go ahead and delete this one because, or I'll just keep it. So there is another action called filter array. Okay. So you click on this, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the output from this insert index. So click on that, and I'm going to say where index, oops, So over here, I'm going to use an expression. Again, item is what is being returned back from this, and the property which we are looking at is index. Okay, so click OK, just hover over it, and I'm going to say where the index is equal to 1. Click on save. And I'm going to do a resubmit. Click OK. Again, it's still pretty fast, 3 seconds. And if you go back over to the array, now it has returned back only one item out of the array, which is skills measured. You could also go ahead and let's say we see over here that I want to get everything where the left is greater than 0.1335 or whatever that value is. So, and less than say 0.39. Okay. So now if you notice over here, we are allowed only one particular line. So how do we do this? So we click on this edit in advanced mode, and you will see that now it has got us this particular value. I like to copy this and go to Notepad, and I'm going to go ahead and delete this and put that over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say and what we are really going to do is we are going to check the left value, right? So let me go back into the edit mode for a second and delete this. Click over here, say item, question mark, left, and come on. Okay, click OK, and I'm going to say is greater than, and what were those values? Let me jump back to my not over here, this, and it was 0.13. So I'm going to select is greater than 0.13, and now I'm going to go into the edit in advanced mode, copy this, go to my Notepad, and I'm going to put this value over here, and then I'm going to say, I'll just copy this data again from here, and instead of greater, less than 0.39 and closing parenthesis. So what we have done is we are using this AND expression. So whatever is within this thing is going to be computed. So we're doing greater than 0.13. Sorry, we have to remove this at sign. So greater than, where the left is greater than 0.13 and less than 0.39. So let me just copy this entire expression and go back over here and paste it out over here. Once this is done, let's see what it does now. So remember on this one we had 0.13 is example 100 and 0.39 was the skills measured. So if our test is successful, we are going to skip this item where it says skills measured. Okay, so let's click on resubmit and click OK. And expand this thing. Now if you go to the filter array, now you have the first item, which is example thing, and now anything which was less than or greater than 0.133 but less than 0.39 has been selected over here. Okay, so let's see what was item second. If you see over here, index second, even though it says this exam was updated, the starting left position was 0.11, and that is the reason why it did not select it, and it just jumped to the index of 21. So what all we covered right now is we showed you how to use compose initially, just to get the current item, and again compose doesn't have a data type. So in this scenario, the compose just created it as a JSON data. Then what we looked at is how to parse that JSON and get the data out of there. So if you notice over here, now we have individual items, so which can be recognized later. Then we are looking at the lines and pulling out only text and the left out of that JSON. Then we are adding a index to index column to that entire JSON data. So we can, if we decide to like only pick up specific data out of there, we can do that. So and then we showed you how to filter the array. Plus we also showed you how you can join the entire text, or you can just have a particular select which will only return back a string array, not an object array of objects. So this is a string array, and then we showed you how you can join the string array to form one string. If you want to like put it into a SharePoint list or whatever you want to do with it, you can do it at that time. So with this whole thing, now you're only looping through one apply to each, and then for each of those items you don't have to again loop through individual lines. Everything can be done through certain data operations. So if you notice over here, if you go back to this one, and let's go to all runs. When we had done the initial one, if you notice over here, we had like 1 minute and 43 seconds. After that, if you see, everything is done either 8 seconds, 9 seconds, and so forth. So it is pretty fast. So you have to look at all these options to see which operation can you use to speed the performance on this one. So in short, what we talked about was how we can utilize some of these data operations to extract the data out of the array. We are going to create another video about some of these AI builder action items, like what we have used over here called recognize text in an image or PDF document. But we are going to show you, if you bring a document which is in a different language, can you translate it to English and so forth. Okay, thank you for watching this video, and we'll be back with our next video pretty soon. Thank you.